Hello, everyone. Wow, what a morning has been already. We're already hearing about all the good and bad and the ugly, and we have a lot more in store for you. Next up, I would like to introduce to all of you Andrew Parking White, who's the founding partner of Tecfutures. Andrew is going to take us through insights about what enterprises want beyond connectivity. Andrew, welcome. Welcome to the
Hello,
session.
Nastia. Lovely to speak to you again and looking forward to the next session. It's going great so far.
It's all going good. I'm very excited about your presentation, Andrew. So I will let you get on with it.
Okay, let's see if I can get the technology working. So what enterprises want beyond connectivity is the subject of today's discussion. I'm going to try and change the focus a little bit. We've heard quite a lot about various technologies, etc. so far. I am going to be covering some of those, but I want to take more of a business angle with this in terms of enterprise requirements. But before I delve into that, I'd like to talk about Tecfutures. We're a relatively new organization. We launched at the end of 2022, and we have quite a different positioning to some other firms in the sector. So we focus on the interplay between the technology supply side and digital disruption in the enterprise, of which IoT is one. And despite this being called an analyst briefing, we're not pure analysts in the sense of the word. We tend to help our clients with customized, tailored research solutions. We predominantly look to help them build competitive advantage and revenue growth. So moving on, what we will cover is a blank slide. What I'm going to talk about today is an overview of the market, what's happening in connectivity and why we should start thinking beyond connectivity, what some of the implications are for suppliers and how the competitive environment is evolving. And we'll kind of finish off with a few recommendations to those involved on the supply side of the organization in terms of what they need to be thinking about in order to enhance their competitive position or grow in the IoT market. So first of all, as I said, I'd like to set the scene and with a few market statistics, and we've drawn the numbers from a variety of sources, and we've used sort of established forecasts from organizations like Transformer Insights, Kaleido Intelligence. We've also drawn on our own survey. So Tecfutures in late 2022, we did a survey of 50 mobile network operators and 75 mobile network operators and MVNOs across the globe of various sizes, from global operators, regional operators to local operators. And we asked them all about what they thought was happening in the enterprise IoT market. You also may recall that MEF itself has done a couple of surveys, and those surveys have focused on existing users of enterprise IoT and those who are planning to use the enterprise IoT, and there's some interesting data in those. So a variety of sources that we've kind of pulled together into today's presentation. So first of all, the market is going to be big. It's big already. Estimates of 13 billion connections in 2022, rising to 34 billion by 2032, with new device sales accounting for about 30% of these total devices. I think it's interesting when we look at a forecast, and we've done lots of these as analysts and consultants over the years, that we always see this sort of steady curve, and what we're actually seeing in the IoT market is a bit of flattening at the moment, and we don't see quite as much growth as some of external analysts might be saying. In terms of how those connections are made up, there are around 80% of those are consumer type applications and 20% of those are enterprise applications. And the top 10 enterprise applications account for about 70% of the market by volume. In terms of how connectivity splits, and I won't dwell on connectivity, but it's an important factor, it's approximately 50% MNO and 50% MVNO. I said I won't dwell on connectivity, but it is an important element. It was simply put that without connectivity, your IoT applications simply won't work. And IoT connectivity comes in many flavors depending on the requirements of use and depending on the technology in play. In terms of looking, the IoT has a rather long value chain, a complex value chain, and it's a value chain that's shifting. And we asked consumer communication service providers how much they thought of total IoT value was spent on connectivity. And in our survey, it came around 7.3%, and that figure has fallen from probably 10% a few years ago. When I get onto the next slide, I'll talk about some of the trends that are happening around connectivity. So uplift in ARPU, there will be some, but probably not as ambitious as the CSPs would like. So we're mentioning 6 key trends in the enterprise market. On the supply side, we're seeing increasing competitive intensity. It really is a battleground out there, and a number of trends are coming out of that, mainly a price war, and also that there is consolidation in the marketplace, players buying other players, players merging. And this is kind of characteristic of a market that is entering the early phase of maturity, where not everybody can be supported in the market. We also see that if you look at what enterprises want in terms of connectivity technologies, there are multiple technologies in the mix. And we estimate probably around a third of these are based on cellular networks. But if you ask an enterprise, licensed and unlicensed technologies are important to them. A big theme that comes up is there's an insufficient focus on security. We know that security is important in an enterprise, but they're not exactly putting their money where their mouth is. And in terms of security, it just varies so much depending on the type of organization, the size of organization, and the applications that they're actually running, and the geographic scope of the organization. A little bit later on, we'll talk about leveraging adjacent technologies. We've heard mention of these already, in an IoT, AI, digital twins, blockchain, etc. And these are important elements. And also what is important is the importance of the non-connectivity elements in all of this. And finally, I'll talk about delivering value for the enterprise in terms of what suppliers can do. So a couple of minutes on why move beyond connectivity. And what we're seeing is the dynamics of the connectivity market are changing. And in our survey, we asked CSPs to rate their greatest challenges, and we pulled out the top 2 challenges, and those are increasing competitive intensity and a race to the bottom on prices. And what we've seen is we have a maturing market, applications becoming more mainstream, barriers to entry have reduced historically, and that's building up competitive pressure. Everybody's fighting for market share, and that has a consequential reduction on price, slowing growth, stalling revenue growth, and the clear moves towards consolidation or even exiting the market. We've seen some major players exit the market. We have to say that it's not the same story in all vertical markets. If you look at an industry demand curve, it's made up of lots and lots of different segments. In terms of the enterprise market, there are lots of vertical segments making up the enterprise market. We focused on a number of these, and we kind of asked the question of CSPs, what's important to you now in terms of growth and revenue, and what's going to be important to you in the next 12 to 24 months in terms of growth and revenue. And what we plotted on here is the change in importance over the next 12 to 24 months. And we sort of see the biggest changes, admittedly not a broad range of changes, coming from automotive manufacturing systems, transportation, storage, logistics, supply chain, tracking of assets, utilities and energy, and some minor contraction in applications, vertical sectors like agriculture, marketing, industrial, retail and wholesale, security of assets. That could be a reflection that these sectors are already being served well with their IoT needs. but it's also indicative of where the market as a whole thinks the battleground is going to be in the next 12 to 24 months. So we asked, what is really driving IoT in the enterprise? And these are sort of ranked, and these came out as the 6 most important out of about 12 criteria, and providing a better customer experience came out on top. Improving workflow followed. There's a whole swathe of opinion on what we can call achieving digital transformation. And one of the big themes that comes out is enterprises wanting to use IoT for the creation of business advantage. The competitive environment in which an enterprise operates is also important, and we're seeing pressure from competitors. Can they do something more efficiently, more cost effectively, better than their competitors? We've heard from some of the earlier speakers that IoT generates a vast amount of data, and this data is valuable, whether it's for predictive maintenance on a manufacturing line, or whether it's providing information flows, intelligence, and using various tools and techniques to make the data work for you. And finally, it's about saving costs. And one interesting thing that comes up is that if you're looking at an IoT solution, cost is not the prime driver for an enterprise. It's much more about gaining these transformational advantages and building a better customer experience. We're doing a piece of work with MEF at the moment called Unlocking Value in Enterprise IoT, which we'll be publishing towards the middle of next week. And we've talked to a variety of CSPs in an in-depth sort of way. And what we're seeing from those discussions, I've pulled out a number of quotes, so this is kind of hot off the press. And Pelion commented on this and saying they have customers using IoT as a transformational technology to save costs or become more efficient. Of course, with opportunities, there are also challenges, and there are lots of kind of horror stories out there about IoT projects, failed IoT projects, and what are the reasons behind why these projects aren't always successful. We always hear about the amazing ones that are delivering real business benefit, making things operate more efficiently, etc. But the main thing that came up was a lack of expertise and technical understanding, followed by a need to integrate multiple technologies. And we have to look, the enterprise market isn't homogeneous. You've got some very large enterprises that will have their own development teams. They can take raw offerings from suppliers and engineer it themselves into solutions. At the other extreme, and perhaps where the next wave of market development is happening, is the smaller organizations that need a lot of hand-holding. And we have to bear in mind that an IoT project is not an undertaking for the faint-hearted with an organization. SI makes the point that it's at least a 2-year project from initial concept to development. It's also not a technology project for an organization. It's a business project, and it's bringing those business benefits that's important. So other challenges that are coming up, enterprises are very worried about security, about introducing new points of presence into their corporate networks and the impact this might have on them. I think a lot of them kind of underestimate the impact that IoT will have on their existing processes and legacy systems. And it really is a significant undertaking. Finding the right suppliers is very important, and we're seeing that enterprises really want a strategic partnership with a supplier or a set of suppliers, and suppliers that they can trust. And finally, taking the highlights of a much longer list, internal issues are a challenge for enterprises, sort of gaining buy-in. It might be a good idea technologically, but it's still a business decision, and getting buy-in from cooperation. And historically, we're seeing a large number of projects that are actually not successful, and SI makes this point. So what is the importance of non-connectivity services in the overall mix? What are organizations looking for? And from the work we've done, we asked them to rank on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very important. What are the most important attributes to an enterprise? And to the top of the pile, and again, not a wide variation between the top and those further down, sector-based solutions. Efficient onboarding of devices is very important. Now, the theme of security comes up once again. There's a lot of discussion around off-the-shelf solutions for plug and play, remote device management, analytics, as we've discussed already. There's a whole swathe of activity around data management and ownership and regulations. This is particularly pertinent on the consumer side of things with devices transmitting data. And then there were 3 that came in at 3.9 out of 5, including the ability to upgrade over the air, having a sustainable solution, and that's a growing theme within the enterprise, and having effective billing and management platforms so that they can introduce devices and manage them in life. Adjacent technologies are very important, and we've got a kind of word cloud here of some of the buzzwords we are hearing, and enterprises need to be confident that they're working with a wide range of different technologies to drive their digital transformation agenda, and it's very kind of use case specific which sort of technologies they use and how they use them. Some applications are rather simplistic, others are extremely complex. But these buzzwords, these technologies come out time and time again: cloud connectivity, edge processing, AI, machine learning, digital twins, and at a simpler level, eSIM, and how IoT can underpin supply chain re-engineering and blockchain, and then the whole issue of technology for sustainability. So where does that leave suppliers in the marketplace? Well, we've sort of talked about this race to the bottom on prices on the connectivity side of things. We've talked about organizations wanting to move up the value curve. So this is a very simplistic Porter model. And what we're looking at is how an organization, our supplier, gains its competitive advantage. Is it based on cost? Or is it based on differentiation and the degree of market focus? So are they broadly spread across a wide range of enterprises, or do they have a very narrow focus, and the 4 generic strategies that they can adopt? So if your competitive advantage is around cost, then how can you get the best cost advantage? If you're a niche player, how can you get a cost advantage in your niche if your focus is there on cost? If your competitive advantage is broad and differentiated, then you have to manage a significant amount of differentiation. If it's narrow market focus, then it's a question of focusing on your particular niches. And the companies we've spoken to recently have made some clear observations. SR makes the point that the market is essentially moving in 2 different directions, one being volume and one being value. And building value, as we're talking about today, the essence of moving beyond connectivity is bringing value through these adjacent technologies and delivering what the enterprise wants in terms of its requirements. There are Vodafone's view, the 3 strategies that are emerging. So either hyperscaling, so you get much, much, much bigger. The second strategy is that you specialize in particular niches or around particular applications and technologies. And the third strategy is that you leave the market. And I think the reality is that the cost pressures are going to be such that some companies will be either acquired or face a decision that their marginal revenue per new customer isn't covering the costs of operating those services. So the conclusion of that is, CSPs and other suppliers to the IoT ecosystem need to continue with their current strategy of offering services beyond connectivity, or develop a much broader portfolio of more non-connectivity wraparounds. In terms of delivering value to the enterprise, there are essentially 5 things that we see that a supplier can do. Firstly, understand the enterprise drivers, understand how you can help them enhance the customer experience, use technology for business advantage, improve their workflow and their way of operating. Secondly, recognize their pain points. So that's this lack of understanding, this lack of technical understanding, lack of experience, and the need to integrate multiple technologies, and their concerns about security. Handhold the enterprise as appropriate, depending on their degree of sophistication, through the design, build, and implement process. Think beyond connectivity alone, provide sector-based solutions, efficient onboarding, end-to-end security, and in-life management services. And finally, the most successful suppliers are the most successful ones. So we're seeing that, Zaria made the point that enterprises and suppliers need to work together on improving security and security innovation around niche use cases, blockchain, payment solutions, etc. And Pod Group makes a point that the whole sort of efficient onboarding sort of thing and in-life management. So adding a full stack and having one platform is important to the enterprise. So apologies for the formatting on this slide. It wasn't like that when I put them together, but something's obviously gone wrong. So we've got a kind of summary of competitive actions that we believe suppliers to the IoT ecosystem can take, depending on where they sit. So the first action is all around leveraging groundbreaking projects, or shall we call them lighthouse projects, for maximum impact and return on investment. So suppliers can build successful collateral around these sort of groundbreaking projects and communicate these to the marketplaces. A lot of times suppliers are doing great things and enterprises don't necessarily know about them. And these groundbreaking lighthouse projects can effectively be a springboard into new markets. They demonstrate a supplier's capability, innovation, and impact. And you also need to research what market needs are there to help you achieve your objectives. And these sort of groundbreaking projects are driving brand recognition. They're helping source new leads and opportunities, establish thought leadership position, and supporting entering new markets. So the second one is developing deep market expertise. So we talked about the niche versus broad approach, and depending on the size of your organization, it might be that you have deep knowledge of particular verticals and broader knowledge of some. Enterprises do value this deep sector experience, this understanding of their needs and the solutions that they're looking for. And it requires leveraging the kind of uniqueness of each sector and understanding them, what their long-term growth ambitions are and what their trajectories are in terms of moving forward. And it's also key and there to understand the business case of the enterprise that's trying to move forward. The third one is finding adjacent markets with synergies and using market analysis to do this. It might be companies that have capabilities which are not necessarily IoT at the moment, but can be applied to the IoT market, might be looking to enter the market. Equally, it might be someone who's being very successful in one part of the market and wants to look to another part of the market and develop their business in that sort of way. And experience in one vertical market can often quite easily translate into success in another market with careful matching of the needs of the enterprises. And the fourth one is differentiate, become a business partner to these enterprises. And in order to do that, you differentiate, you communicate value, You need to stand out from the crowd in an increasingly competitive market and understand, as is the nature of this presentation, that connectivity alone is not enough. You need to find new ways of differentiation, new forms of specialization, adding new capabilities. Partnership is key to building success, and bringing your expertise and solutions to the enterprise is important. So I've gone through that at a fair rate of knots. We've got a couple of reports already available. One we have on our website at the moment. If you go onto the Tecfutures website, you'll see a set of reports based on our survey work, and we publish Building Competitive Advantage in Enterprise IoT, which builds on some of the ideas that I've discussed today. Next week, we are publishing, in association with MEF, Unlocking Value in Enterprise IoT, which is based on a series of discussions and work we're doing around that. We also have a webinar on the 14th of September where we'll be exploring the themes of unlocking value in enterprise IoT together with MEF. And gosh, a bit of a dog's dinner of a slide at the end, never mind. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can email me. I'm Andrew at tecfutures.com. Visit the Tecfutures website. We have a monthly letter, which is a roundup of our research, blog spots, and news of upcoming reports. You can follow us on LinkedIn, and also send general inquiries to marketing at tecfutures.com. Well, it looks as though it's 12 o'clock and my slot is over. So I'd like to thank Nasia for putting this event together. Please do contact me if you've got any questions, any observations, valid disagreements, agreements, etc. Thank you, Nasia.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for that insight. All the insights, actually. I bet it was quite a surprise for some people of what actually the enterprises need, and beyond what they need, what they should have. So for that, thank you, Andrew. We appreciate all the information you shared with us today.
Thank you, Nasia. Goodbye.